Hello, everybody, fellow Passionites. I know I look a little different, don't I? It's a little blonde up here. It's back to all black. My hair is low, my beard is low, but it's still the same Kenny P. You already know. Did I mean to rhyme that? I don't know. Put me in the booth. But yeah, guys, what's up? What's going on? Let's talk about some new rules in the NBA and what this could possibly mean for the game of basketball itself. So a new rule has been implemented into the NBA recently on the player participation policy, also known as PPP. It's not another PP loan for all you scammers out there, all right? Calm down. But there is a new rule that's been instituted, and some people have questions about what could this mean, because this comes after we've seen the NBA try to implement new things to enhance the product of the game itself. To its viewers and audience, to many who have complained about players resting games, people not playing as serious in certain parts of the season. That's why we have the in-season tournament now. But what does this new rule exactly detail? PPP, in short, this means that teams cannot rest star players for televised games. That's the short one-sentence version of it. If you had to do a little quick short answer to that, like you used to back in school for those little tests, if you know what I'm talking about. One star player cannot rest on televised games unless it is pre-approved a week before. But there's also some more things that go into that. But let's break this down. What qualifies as a star player? What qualifies as a star player, according to this new policy, is any NBA player that's been on an all-NBA team or all-star within the past 3 seasons. So, of course, that includes your typical, LeBron, KD, Steph, James Harden, Tatum, Ja, all these guys, right? Luka, all these guys. What some players that are included that you may not have known would be on this list would be Ben Simmons, Mike Conley Jr., Rudy Gobert. They all on this list. This list can be updated once the new All-Stars come out this year. So whoever gets added to the All-Star game this year that wasn't on there before, they will be on there. I know Tyrese Halliburton is also on this list as well. If a star is injured, they will have to, obviously, they'll have to go to the team doctors. And if they come back after a back-to-back, then it will be investigated. Healthy stars in general cannot sit on any televised games or in-season tournament games. And if a star is to be rested, they have to be in the arena and visible for the fans, for everybody to see. Also in this new policy, teams can no longer shut down a player. We have examples like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard of last year, when we had 2 teams, obviously, that wasn't going for anything. Now, obviously, if it is a severe injury like a torn ACL or Achilles, of course they can sit down. It's not no freaking barbaric thing like, you must play with your torn ACL, Luka. I don't know what the fuck that was. This really applies to mainly back-to-back games, because we've seen there was a rule that was implemented back in 2017 about the resting policy, but we've been watching the game since then. It doesn't seem as apparent as only since then. It seems like players have been resting more and more. But if you are over the age of 35 once the season starts, or if you have played over 34,000 regular season minutes, 1,000 games combined of regular season and playoffs, you can miss back-to-back games. What happens if these rules are broken? The first fine is $100,000. The second fine is $250,000. The third fine is 1.25 million. Now, these fines do go towards the team and not the players, because as we're seeing instances where you will have players who have came out and talked on their behalf of like, hey, sometimes it's not even me that wants to sit. Sometimes it's the team saying, sit this one out, because they're trying to preserve these players for obviously longer stretches and more important parts of the season. Now, how does this correlate along with the new 65 game rule that was also implemented this offseason, where players have to play a minimum of 65 games to be considered for awards? That would be like the MVP, All-NBA, Defensive Player, all these awards, which add bonuses and elevate players' contracts coming into the season. We obviously know the infamous incident of Klay Thompson not getting a max deal because he wasn't named to the All-NBA team. And obviously more recently with Ja Morant, who's being suspended 25 games, which he has a contract extension. I want to say he has a he. Let me make sure. I think he has a super max. He had a max extension already, but he's not super max eligible because of what's going to come this season, where he won't be able to meet those requirements because he's already missed 25 games, so he won't be able to be named All NBA or be an MVP type of voting. How does this all change the game of basketball that we all know to love? Well, if you're a fan, you're one of those people who's been complaining about these players resting all the time, not me, then you'll love this. I can speak from experience of actually going to games. I remember I would go to Pacer games all the time, and I would always want to see Kawhi Leonard play, both when he was in Toronto and with the Clippers. And both times that I went to those games, he sat out. The Toronto game, though, he was actually there. So I guess this would fit the bill of like he was actually present in the arena. I did see him there, but he never played a game. So I can get that from that experience. Like, dang, I don't get to see this player play. They come only once or twice a year. So from that fan perspective, if you're a kid, or somebody who goes to these games to see a LeBron who does try to make and play all these games as much as he can, you seeing like a guy who's not going to play, of course, this is going to be a rule that's going to be beneficial for you. But for what does it mean for the players and their health and for these teams? A lot of conversation has been going on throughout the years about, are these players softer than they used to be because you have older something like, well, I played all 82 games, we played through injury, no matter what, blah, 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 blah. And you see half of them now limping around, got bad leg, knock knees and whatnot. And obviously this game's going to take a toll on your body. If you're pushing yourself to be the best and premium athlete that these guys are years after years after years, and you sustain injuries, of course it's going to take a toll on your body. That's in any sport, any type of athletic. But when it comes to these players and their health, because we have been seeing a lot of stars being injured more and more recently. Obviously you have like your outliers of guys who just get injured just off the brink of just anything. But you also have guys who's been getting injured more and more recently. Anthony Davis obviously comes to mind. That's a guy who always gets hurt all the time. As much as I love him, Paul George, he gets hurt as well. Kawhi, KD, these are guys, who gets hurt all the time. So what about like that 65 game rule? Obviously that would affect them when it comes to those awards. But with this whole resting policy, will that in turn help or hurt teams, going into this season? I don't know. Because obviously, like I said, you when you play these type of sports and you play the game, you're going to sustain some type of injury. You're going to be sore. Obviously, that comes with it. But should that make it necessary for you to miss a whole game if you have like a sore back? Because when you look at guys who are very durable, like a LeBron James, who we're only now seeing injuries starting to come to him because obviously he's old of age. But throughout his career, LeBron James has been a very durable athlete. You can't sit here and say that this man wasn't hurt. Hell, we seen in the 2018 finals, this man was playing with a broken hand after game one, which we didn't even know until after the fact, until he told us. And this man put up one of the best performances in playoff history, in that run, obviously leading up to it, but still in that final series, despite getting swept. Can these guys? I'm intrigued to see how these guys, how these players, go about this season with this new rule, and what does it do to their bodies? Do we start seeing less injuries? Because we have people out there also saying that because these players are resting or taking these different type of methods, that's why they're also being hurt a lot. I remember I saw Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp talking, and Chad was talking about players' diets more. This is mainly towards football, but players' diets is part of the reason why they get hurt so much. Not necessarily because they're eating bad, because they're eating too good and probably not putting their body through the ringer to get themselves in shape to stay like that. And Ochocinco has not been hurt, as he talks about a lot. So maybe there is a point to that. So this is kind of like an experiment that I'm willing to see how's it going to turn out for the league going into this 2023-2024 season. I can't clear-cut say that this is going to be good or bad. I'm just more so intrigued because obviously as a product, as a whole, business-wise, this is a good idea because we're going to see more TV games where you have all these players that game. I know you go back to, 2014 or whatever, when Popovich sat out Tim Duncan and all those guys for a nationally televised game. We've seen it since this year where like guys have been set out and it's been for a televised game that's supposed to be big because businesses, corporations like ESPN or like TNT, they're going to want those guys playing because that brings more eyes to the product and that benefits not only just the companies that are hosting these games, but it also benefits the league. It also benefits these players because you're getting more eyes on you. So that's going to be intriguing to see. Obviously, this is also going to be intriguing to see because people will talk about some players' heart, where they're at with the game. Like, do they truly actually love this game of basketball, or are they in it for the money? And with these new rules in play that affect, like this new CBA as well, because obviously we see guys getting, $300 million contracts, and we're going to see more of those going down the line. There's obviously the revenue increase and profit share start to split up more. We're obviously going to see those contracts go up. So with the money being there and getting only more and more for like those top guys, and in order to reach those type of levels, get the Supermax, it's going to require these guys to play a lot more games and to take the game seriously. So I guess from that sense, if you're looking at the integrity of the game and when these guys who actually love the game choose to play, I guess you want to say that benefits them. That's a good thing. But in terms of in its totality as what this rule can mean, I'm intrigued. Are we going to see more injuries? Are we going to see less injuries? We're definitely going to see more competitive games if we're starting to see these guys play more. And like I said, when the bottom line is involved and the money is clearly there for these guys to get exorbitant amount of dollars for reaching these benchmarks, I think it should make for a better product, but who's to say? I'm intrigued where this wants to go. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down in the comments below. What do you guys think about this new PPP? Share your thoughts. I'm intrigued to what you guys have to say, genuinely.